Real love is trust, respect, and deep connection. This is Kærlighed in Denmark. A quiet cafe in Aarhus. Do you know that feeling when you sit in a quiet cafe, a warm cappuccino steaming in front of you, and everything around you seems to slow down? In Aarhus on a winter morning, that's almost an art form. Outside, bicycles line up neatly, their wheels dusted with thin frost. Inside, warm yellow light glows against wooden walls, the scent of waffles mixing with fresh roasted coffee. I sat by the window, sipping my cappuccino and watching Danes walk by, thick coats, scarves wrapped up to their noses, strolling as if -2 degrees Celsius was just a mild breeze. Suddenly, the chair across from me scraped softly. An old friend sat down, smiling slightly. The kind of smile that makes you feel safe, but also warns you a question is coming, one you might not be ready for. We exchanged small talk. The espresso machine hissed at the counter, a steady soundtrack. Everything was calm. Then my friend tilted his head, looked straight into my eyes, and asked, "Do you think love is always soft?" That question was like a stone dropping into my cappuccino. Silence filled my mind. Every image I had of soft love, the hugs, the gentle words, the sunsets together, was suddenly challenged. I wasn't sure whether to say yes, to keep things peaceful, or no, to step into a conversation that might last longer than my coffee. Have you noticed? Sometimes a simple question can pull you out of your comfort zone faster than the express train from Aarhus to Copenhagen. And you must decide, stay in the familiar warmth, or dive into deeper waters, where love might take a shape you never imagined. The unexpected question. You know those moments when everything feels perfectly in place, and then one sentence changes the entire atmosphere? That was exactly what happened in that small cafe in Aarhus. We had been talking about the weather, about the winter markets, even about the best bakery for Kærlighed. Then, out of nowhere, my friend leaned forward and asked, "Do you think love is always soft?" The question hung in the air like the steam from my cappuccino. Outside, a cyclist rang their bell, the sound echoing against the cobblestones. Inside, my mind began racing. Was love supposed to be gentle all the time? Or could it sometimes be sharp, like the wind blowing in from the Aarhus harbor? This was not a question you could answer without peeling back layers. In Denmark, where people value honesty and directness, a question like this isn't just small talk, it's an invitation to dive deep. I took a breath, aware that my answer could open doors to stories, memories, and maybe even confessions I hadn't planned to share. And maybe that's the beauty of conversations in small Danish cafes. You walk in for a coffee and leave questioning what you thought you knew about life. Memories of a harsh goodbye. Some memories stay with you, not because they are sweet, but because they leave a mark. I remember standing on a quiet street in Copenhagen, the winter air biting at my face, and realizing the conversation was over. Not just for that night, but forever. The words we exchanged were polite, almost too polite, but underneath them was a finality sharper than the cold wind. In Denmark, breakups are often straightforward. People value honesty, even if it hurts. That night, I learned that love isn't always soft. Sometimes it's the courage to say, "This isn't working," and mean it. Walking away wasn't just about leaving a relationship. It was about stepping into the unknown alone in a city that suddenly felt too big. Every step I took on those cobblestone streets echoed a truth I didn't want to hear. Love can end without cruelty, yet still feel like a storm has passed through your life. And perhaps that's the paradox. The softest words can sometimes deliver the hardest truths. The science of tough love in the world of psychology. Tough love is not about being unkind. It's about caring enough to set boundaries, even when it's uncomfortable. Imagine love as a warm Danish wool blanket. Sometimes it wraps around you, soft and comforting. But other times, it's pulled away just enough to make you stand on your own feet. Research shows that relationships built on honesty, even when that honesty stings, tend to be stronger in the long run. In Denmark, where direct communication is part of the culture, tough love is not seen as cold. Instead, it's often viewed as a sign of respect. You trust the other person enough to tell them the truth, even if it's hard to hear. Think about it. If love was always soft, would we ever grow? A partner who challenges you can be like the brisk wind off the Copenhagen harbor. It might make you shiver, but it wakes you up. And maybe, just maybe, that's the kind of love that keeps you warm for years. A Danish winter walk after the cafe, we decided to walk through the quiet streets of Aarhus. The winter light in Denmark is soft, almost silver, and the air smells faintly of wood smoke from nearby houses. As we passed rows of colorful buildings, our conversation about love kept flowing. There's something about walking side by side that makes difficult topics easier to talk about. Maybe it's the rhythm of the steps, or the way you don't have to make constant eye contact. We crossed over a small canal, the water moving lazily under a thin layer of ice. My friend shared stories about times when love felt less like a warm blanket and more like a push into cold water, shocking at first, but strangely necessary. I thought about my own experiences, moments when someone's honesty hurt, but later turned out to be exactly what I needed. In Denmark, winter walks have a certain magic. You start out cold, but with each step, you warm up, both in body and in conversation. Maybe love works the same way. It can feel chilly at first when truth is spoken, but over time, that truth becomes the warmth you carry with you. When softness isn't enough, some people think that if love is kind and gentle, it can fix anything. But anyone who has lived long enough, especially through a few cold Danish winters, knows that's not always true. I remember a couple I knew in Odense. They were the sweetest people to each other, always polite, never raising their voices. But slowly, like frost spreading over a window, problems began to cover their relationship. They avoided tough conversations because they didn't want to hurt each other. On the surface, it looked perfect. Candlelit dinners, shared bicycle rides, smiling photos at Tivoli. But underneath, important issues were being left in the cold. And just like pipes freezing under a house, the pressure built up until something finally broke. In Denmark, where balance and honesty are valued, relationships often survive not because of endless softness, but because of a mix, kindness, and courage. Sometimes love means saying, "We need to talk," even if your voice shakes. True warmth isn't just about keeping someone comfortable. It's about helping them grow, even when that growth feels like stepping into the snow without gloves. The final argument, by the time we reached the old harbor in Aarhus, the air had grown colder, and so had the tone of our conversation. My friend and I were deep into our final argument, not the angry kind, but the kind where two people care enough to challenge each other's beliefs. The sea was dark and restless, waves slapping against the wooden docks, as if nature itself was joining the debate. My friend insisted that love should always feel safe, like a small hugelit room in the middle of a Danish winter. I argued that love sometimes needs to shake us, the way a January wind rattles the windows. Not to destroy the house, but to remind us it's still standing strong. We spoke slowly, choosing our words like pieces in a chess game. In Denmark, discussions like this are almost a tradition. They're not about winning, they're about finding the truth between two perspectives. By the end, neither of us fully convinced the other, but we understood each other better. And maybe that's what love and friendship is meant to do. Not erase the differences, but hold them with respect. A warm reflection as we walked back toward the city center. The harbor lights shimmered on the water, and our breaths turned to clouds in the cold air. The conversation had quieted, but the words still echoed between us. I realized that we weren't trying to define love for the whole world. We were just trying to understand it for ourselves here and now, in the heart of Denmark. Maybe love isn't always soft, and maybe it shouldn't be. Sometimes it's the gentle comfort of fresh-baked rye bread on a Sunday morning. Other times, it's the firm push that gets you out the door on a rainy Aarhus day when you'd rather stay in bed. Both can be love. Both can keep you moving forward.
In Denmark, we have a saying, Livet ikke kun solskin, men også regn.
Life isn't only sunshine, but also rain. And maybe love is the same. A mix of warmth and challenge, softness and strength. As we parted ways under the glowing street lamps, I felt grateful. Not because we agreed on everything, but because the conversation had reminded me that love, in all its forms, is worth talking about.
Det det hele værd. I whisper to myself.
It's all worth it. That's all for today. I'll make more videos like this in the future.
Subscribe to see them.